Making the Make in India to happen, extending the role and relevance of higher education system. I request Dr. A.S. Chawla, Honorable Registrar of the Punjabi University, to please come on the dais. I request Rear Admiral V. Rajashekharan, Director General, P-75 from Indian Navy. I would request Air Commodore P.M. Puranik, VSM, who is the head of the Air Force Station 3 BRD, to please come on the dais. I would request Professor B.S. Sodhi, Pro VC at the Chandigarh University, to please join us as the panelist on this session. Captain Ajay Swaroop from DIT University. Professor Khosla, the Honorable Vice Chancellor of the Shoolini University. In fact, Professor Khosla was the maiden respondent to the campus preparedness survey. So that calls for a huge clap. And Dr. Manjeet Singh, OSN Director, TBRI Chandigarh. I think Dr. Pravendra Kumar has come in his place. Dr. Pravendra Kumar, yeah. So please join in. This is a DRDO laboratory. Just one chair more. Yeah. And I will request Mr. Raj Mrityunjayappa to please also join in on this panel. Just a moment, we're just studying for which of Making in India, which has been unleashed by the Honorable Prime Minister to galvanize the entire manufacturing spine of the country. India has really fallen back on the manufacturing forefront, and the entire balance of the trinity of agriculture, services and manufacturing, they all talked about the hands-on knowledge, the hands-on experience. हिंदुस्तान साल भर में 35,000 करोड़ के मोबाइल इक्विपमेंट्स हम इंपोर्ट करते हैं. हमारा करंट अकाउंट डेफिसिट इज सो ह्यूज दैट वी हैव फाइनेंस्ड द बजट ऑफ द रेड आर्मी फॉर 3 long years. So we have financed China, its army, 3 years of budget through our imports. So mindless, or so I will say disconnected the entire economy has become, as Professor Vajpayee has said very categorically, that the linkages between the framework of linking the education and treating as an integral part of economy, especially the higher technical education per se, is coming very, very strongly on the forefront. So one of the themes which Engineering Watch has been trying to champion and trying to advocate across, that why cannot the higher technical education institutions and the higher education institutions contribute directly to the larger national priorities, even if in terms of research. This small compendium which we have curated in the last 100 days, it shows that the distinction between the applied, advanced and the appropriate researches, there is a whole narrative around it, that how the campuses are perceiving the advanced research per se. Interestingly, the group of institutions have a more infatuation towards advanced research than even the IITs or the private universities or the deemed universities. It is good to talk about a new space science or a new material at an evolving institution. So a whole paradigm has to be worked upon. A lot of inputs have come from the industry in the first session. So this session will focus upon how the role of the higher technical education system can be extended and expanded so that it starts contributing directly for empowering the local MSMEs, as Professor Chadha said, like the research in the local vicinity, visits of the faculty over there. So how it can be interrelated, how the information flows. We have huge engineering clusters across. If we just do a mapping of Punjab, like 12 edu destinations, 12 cities which we say as edu destinations, which have more than 10 engineering colleges in that particular city. We have industrial clusters across. So how this interlinkages and how that hands-on experience with which Rear Admiral Rajashekharan also talked about can be instantiated. I would open the forum with Rear Admiral V. Rajashekharan to give his opening comments on this entire topic.
Mankind existed on this earth for, I don't know, maybe millions of years, and the way they lived, almost, if you see 95% of the 98% of the time, they lived in the same standard manual labor and normal conventional tools and all. But industrial revolution started from somewhere in 1760 to 1840. In 80 years, the scenario of living on Earth totally got changed. Just 8 years. 8 years as compared to millions of years is maybe fraction of that time. But that has changed. Now, how it happened and how their transformation taking place, I will just cover in terms of that, that will, skill and attitude that previous panelists have spoken, that will, skill and attitude. Now that industrial revolution time, it was state sponsored, government sponsored, society sponsored, like the East India Company, though it is a private company, but it was supported by the, at the back end by the government. The society is transformed, sponsored, and everything they have tried to, it started with textile industry. I'm sure all of you, you know that it started with the textile industry. And after, when the textile industry wanted that metal and steel and iron has gone, the transportation, steam engines, everything one over the other, they started coming. And there was, that time I believe, when you read the books and all, it says, like that nowadays if when the cricket World Cup cricket match is going on, even Nukkad, that children will play only cricket. And when the football is there, even Nukkad, they will play football only. So like that, I believe those days in Britain, there used to be only inventions. Like there used to be so much of importance. If anyone who invented something, immediately used to get patented, they used to get national hero status. And if someone goes around the world on the sea and finds the sea trade and sea routes, when he comes back, he is given welcome equal to almost next to the god. So that type of importance they have given that. So the will, they started from the government. The will has to start from the government, then automatically the push is there and that things will happen. Now, till now, I don't want to go into the political, but for over a few years, we haven't got a stable government. Now we got a government where they don't have to do the crisis management of sticking onto the seat with a decent majority they got. And there is a will has come, saying that let us make it in India. So the will part is going to get covered. Next is the skill level. I'm sure you must have seen the electricians and they come home for doing some repairs and all. That chap take the cable and puts in his mouth and strips that with the teeth. The carpenter comes, he takes the screw and hammers it. When you say it's a screw, hammer kar sakta hai. So he doesn't know that the meaning of the screw itself is to screw it, but he doesn't do that. So that is the skill set which we have in India. And we make in India needle to the nuclear bomb. But the needle doesn't have the sharpness to pierce through. And thankfully we not got an opportunity to use it. And I pray God that we should not use that nuclear bomb also. So that when that quality is not there, you generally get even as a user, you only look at quality. Unless there is a compulsion that there is nothing else and you are forced to take it, like when Air India was there and there is nothing else, you are forced to take that Air India, whatever attitude and whatever service he has given. So unless that is there, but if you have a choice, then you will get into the problem. So the skill set is one thing which is presently request to be this thing. The next is attitude. That attitude, what happens is somehow it has come into Indian mind, maybe because of years of slavery. Anything that comes from abroad is definitely gold. And if the same gold is made in India, they look with suspicion. Is it gold or is it gold plated? And how could he get that gold made in India? It couldn't have been possible. So then that research starts. It becomes the responsibility of the chap who made the gold to prove that it is pure gold. And for a chap who is suspecting and checking, however you prove the other side, will not happen. Now I am a submariner, and submarine technology is not that common in developing countries. Over last maybe few years we have been dependent on the foreign countries, and when you deal with them, it really upsets. It really makes you feel so miserable, especially when you're dealing with them, when you go for price negotiations and all, the way they behave, because they know that we have no other option. You have taken the submarine, and unless you take the space from them, unless you take the technology, you cannot tie up the costly submarine alongside. So the way they behave, when the PNC says, if you want, take it, otherwise you are going tomorrow. So they blackmail that. That was a time we used to feel miserable. It's nothing but slavery. If you have to depend on someone so intimately, and without his help you are not able to move forward, you don't have an independence. You are still in that pre-independence era only, where you are still depending on the foreign countries. So that is the time, whatever it happened, it has come, that make in India. Yes, it will be difficult initially, but suppose if a few thousand crores project, if it gets executed in India, you may be spending 80%, 70% of the money back to the foreign country which has given you the transport technology or the equipment, because that equipment are not available in India. But the very fact that you are making in India, you are developing the skill set, even the manual skill set. The chap who is doing that installation, equipment, integration and outfitting, he will have the technology, and when he is making it, he will understand, oh, it is that simple. I didn't know that it is that simple. Otherwise, I also could have not made it. And in the process, the associate industry will develop. Out of 50,000 crores project which has been recently cleared for that 75 India submarine, even if 30,000 crores go back to the foreign country who is given the transfer of technology, the 20,000 crores if it remains, just imagine 20,000 crores for one project if it gets spread into the society. How much economic growth, how much job employment it will give, how many ancillary units will come up. So it's very good thinking. And with this will and that attitude changing, that attitude changing means it should change. Because if you want to stand independently on your own without depending on someone, without getting blackmailed by him, then you have to grow. Changing, and the skill set is the one which is required to be brought in. And thankfully the societies are looking at how to improve this skill set in the higher education, and I think we will be definitely in the right direction and we will move forward. And we will get industrial independence sooner or later. Thank you.
Thanks a lot, sir, for wonderful opening remarks. I will request Raj to give up his opening stump.
Thank you for the great opening remarks. I think I can talk on behalf of two things. One, obviously, from campus management. Secondly, I'm also an industry representation because we also run, this is a technology company at the end of the day. And we go out and recruit from the same campuses where you all are sitting in. And we actually rely on those skills to develop a software product out of India. So we are actually, in our own way, contributing towards the Make in India to make some products out of here. But what is important to understand is how this concept of Make in India at this point is really marketing, and it's really will continue to stay there if we don't translate that in every one of the colleges and institutions and also companies like us. Right? We have to translate that vision at every level. For starters, I think Make in India to me is a culture difference. It is actually we're teaching a new culture to our current prospective students and the future employers. What that means is they need to come up with a DNA of saying, I can actually come up with a nice idea. I don't have to be working here to get employed. That's the first DNA that has to come out. Right? I mean, that is the that lacks significantly in the culture. I can say there are a few people at the age of 45, 50, they say, listen, I'm tired of working right now, let me go and try something new. But that mentality has to be there at the age of 20. That has to be there at the age of 25. That's when we can actually come up with some of the most brilliant, great things that can be done. I mean, for a country of our size, Flipkart and Snapdeal, which is actually revolutionizing, and you look at the valuations of some of these companies and the kind of money that valuations of international companies are willing to put into this kind of a startup. It is not a great idea by us, by the way. It was not that India innovated e-commerce. It was actually borrowed from US or borrowed from somewhere else. But even for a borrowed idea implemented in a local way, there is huge money that is get poured in. Think about an innovative idea that is implemented in this country. There is no dearth of money. Problem is, at this point, there is no guarantee of the quality of people who are going to implement. And that's why the bargain is very high. If you go out and say, I have a great idea, I want to implement it, give me money, they will ask you 80% of the equity of the company. Because they're worried that you have no previous experience of having done an innovation, having done this one. Even if you go back to your grassroots where you studied from, there is nowhere it shows that you have actually come out of an incubation center of a university, incubation center of a college, where you have come up with 3 great ideas and filed for 2 patents. And now you're actually coming up with a company. If you have a track record, people would love to put money behind your idea. They would actually want to grow behind the idea. So Make in India to me is a lot about how do we culturally change the students coming out of the institutions. How do we actually develop that DNA in them? How can we leverage technology, platform, what is available to give them that knowledge? Right? There is MOOCs was mentioned, there is a lot of online content available, there is tons of material out there. How do we actually bring that knowledge level to the point where students can actually pick up these things pretty quickly and be able to leverage that knowledge in innovating things, in coming up with great ideas. It could be the same idea being done better way. It could be service ideas, it could be product ideas. And that culture DNA, if it comes in, I think the Make in India, the whole theme which is being programmed is going to be great success 20 years, 30 years from now, and we'll be a happy country.
Excellent, Raj. Thanks a lot. I will request Captain Swaroop to build on what Raj has said in the context of DIT University, what openings you see, because that's how this whole cultural paradigm will make a...
No, I'll not talk about DIT University. I'll talk about the university per se. I'm representing the whole university sitting in front of me, right? So I'll start from where I stopped. We heard a government official, we heard industry-based people. Now I'll talk about the university. Yes, university we do require to change our attitude towards life. Yes, I agree with you, because we have to make our syllabus, our curriculum, industry-based. For that purpose, either industry has to come to us or we have to go to the industry. And most of the universities have started doing that. We have to see that mundane stereotype syllabus won't do now. We have to, if we want to contribute to this development of this country, we have to come out of that stereotype syllabus. So for that reason, we are having conclaves. We are interacting with industry, and so that we learn a lot. We know what is the requirement of the day. As someone said just now before, we talk about will, skill, and efficiency. All three things are required for any person doing any course, let it be engineering, medical, MBA, or any course for that matter. I appreciate the concern. Yes, you should have a technical knowledge. Yes, but you should have a practical knowledge too. For that purpose, we have to make our curriculum in such a manner that we are getting exposed to those practical equipments, practical way of dealing with it, whether it is technical or any other facet of education. So I would request, in fact we are planning, and I would request all the universities to please think on those lines and change the stereotype syllabus, and so that we can compete with US and UK, whatever we have said. And we just now someone said yes, in US and UK the private universities are best, so we can also be the best. And someone also mentioned that they are the best, but most of them are Indians. So why can't we do it here? We will definitely do it, and we will definitely try to incorporate these things in our syllabus. Thank you very much.
Thanks a lot, sir. I will request Dr. A.S. Chawla, the Honorable Registrar of Punjabi University, to give up his opening remarks on this.
Thank you very much. I will also pick up some threads from previous panel in which many things were being discussed related to private university, public universities, students, teachers, many things. One thing was mentioned, and that was that we are passing through a stage when India has young population. Median age by next 5 years it will be around 28 years, which means that we have a large community which needs education right now. And when we have such a big size of population, students community, we are also passing through a middle class dilemma, where the role of parents comes in. What we all are doing, sitting here, so many people sitting outside, moving in the society, are we sending all those people who are going in technical management and other professional education who wants to go there? This is a big question, because last 30 years, 35 years when I've been teaching, I find that large number of persons, they are not meant for that. They are not themselves interested in coming to technical education. We want to make them engineers. They may not be fit for becoming engineers. They may be good for so many other things in which they can contribute towards the society. But
parents wants them to go for engineering job. Why? Because they should be engineers, they should be manager, and this is somewhere dignity is associated with it. What is happening in US? Things are different because there is a dignity of labor. If we have a dignity of labor in India, people may even like to go in for polytechnics or some small technical trades in which they can excel. That things have not been focused on at all. I remember one of the instances, one of our colleagues working as head of the department in Wilkes University in USA, Pennsylvania. One day I visited his place and he prepared fantastic pizza for us. I was wondering, how can you make such a good pizza? He said, this is something which I like. After 8-10 months, when I get bored from my teaching job, I go and I work in pizza, being head of the department in one of the universities. Because he doesn't mind going in a pizzeria and making pizza, learning out of the process, because this is his passion. He said, while I was a child, I for a number of years worked in a pizzeria. Are these kind of things there in our own families also, where we may not hesitate sending guy who wants to go for singing or wants to go in for doing some paintings or fine arts, and then he is in a position to come out with skills which may be very good in advertising. Otherwise, teaching advertising in a class may not be very much attractive for him, but when he learns through paintings, arts and other things, that may become one of the fantastic things for him to do. But middle class families, they want our kids to become engineers, our kids to become, without any aptitude for that kind of profession, they should be in the engineering classes. This is something which is happening. And because of that, we are finding qualitative problem in the output which we have from engineering colleges. Engineering colleges alone are not responsible for this. Technical institutions are not only responsible for this. This is because there are few things which even our students are not interested in, to whom we are trying to impart. We are talking about private universities and public universities. It is from the funding angle we are talking about, or it is from the autonomy angle we are talking about. If it is funding part, I totally disagree with the system which we have, because private universities also need some kind of support from the government. No education system can work properly unless government come forward in one way or the other. You are talking about private universities in US, top universities in US, private universities. You are talking about Harvard Business School. How many students pay fees from their own pocket in Harvard Business School? I remember when I was there in 2001, I was told by Michael Porter that 80% of our students who pay hefty fees, they are sponsored students. So, no problem. Whatever money they require, industry is paying their fees, institution is getting money, and they don't face any problem as far as finances are concerned. Is it happening in India? I mean, students goes to a school and right in the beginning, he gets all that money paid by somebody, and he doesn't have any problem as far as going in for the excellent education he is referring to. Government, they have to come forward. 70-75% of funding, even in some of the private universities, is given by the local governments. Go to different institutions, infrastructure development there. Who are the people who have constructed those buildings and rooms in US universities? You will find only variable cost is taken care of through the business model which private universities has. Rest, everything come in the form of endowment from one person or the other, which is a big supporting base. We have to come out with such systems in India also, where private universities are also getting some kind of support from either government or somewhere, industry or whatever you want to call. Because research orientation will not come till the time their business model is going to work perfectly. And business model of all these technical institutions will never work perfectly if they are not depending only on fees. It will not work. They have to depend upon some sources from from the government or other stakeholders who could be there in those institutions. I have gone through some 31, 32 institutions in India for accreditation process. In a couple of institutions, I was the chairperson of the committee. What I found in all those cases, out of 31, 29 I rejected just because they were not in a position to make score in research and development activity, whatever score has been kept for that. Why they were not in a position to do that? What were the reasons? Because they were not in a position to put money for the research and development activity. They were to sustain. They were to, if you go in for excessive kind of, attracting people, paying money to the faculty and whatever, if they have to spend, they cannot spare money for research and development. There are different models for that. Ask private technical institution that if you contribute 50% for research and development activity, 50% will be the government's money which will come forward, they will pay. AICT will pay, or University Grant Commission will pay, or whosoever will pay. You will find so many technical institutions will come forward. But otherwise, it is very difficult for them to carry on. There may be few. I remember one of the institutions, top class institution in India, ranked amongst first 25 institutions. We were in the accreditation process and they were not in a position to make it. I was one of the members, and the director of one of the IAMs was our chairperson. Towards the end, when we were scoring, he said, we cannot refuse accreditation to this institution because they are ranked so high. If we are not giving them required score, probably we will be questioned. And there were too much of an argument on this particular aspect because, amongst first 25 ranked, and you are not in a position to make a research aspect. Otherwise, they were making good score in everything. And the guy, director of that institute said, please bring me the score of IIM Ahmedabad. As far as this part is concerned, then you can carry on with that kind of activity. This is something which is happening with IIT, IIMs also. We do talk about that to be, as one of the path breakers, but again, situation is they get best of the people, so best of people are coming out. If you see in terms of their contribution, you can score them and find where their score of IITs and IIMs is there. Private institution, so many may be doing better than them, but the parameters are different when we are trying to score them, when we are trying to give accreditation to the different institution, parameters are different. So my focus once again will be that Make in India concept. For that, basic thing in the technical institution is going to be developing research and development activity. For that, you have to have interested students in these institutions who really are in for engineering or technical trades. And then, whatever you have, there must be some kind of money flowing so that these institutions can also cross-subsidize even poor students who are coming to the field, but they are brilliant and out of their own resources they can do it, and whole of the process of research and development can take place. Thank you very much.
Thanks a lot, sir. You have really set out the foundations of this.
Everybody, I am from Air Force, and I see that all of us as Indians are living the dream of Make in India, and the defense sector, defense industry is going to play a major role as far as this dream is concerned. From operational point of view, I look at the industry, how I look at the industry, and how, as of now, what I understand, how industry looks at defense sector. That is what I will just cover a few points here. In defense, we have two different levels of planning, strategic level and the tactical level. Strategic level decides as to how a defense has to function. Tactical level decides as to how we take on the enemy when it comes to a war. The definition of warfare has changed over a period. Now gone are those days when we'll have wars like Mahabharata. It's just going to be an overnight war. It's going to be a cyber war. It's going to be a war which is laden by technology. So if I feel if the defense industry has to be developed, the first and foremost thing which we look for is the technology, the cutting edge technology which defense industry is looking for. But now let me talk of R&D aspects of this cutting edge technology. When we talk of R&D, lot of projects I have seen getting developed, but never seen the light of the day. Lot of projects, they are good in theory, but very difficult to implement in practice. There is no product which is coming out of that project. So when it comes to developing Make in India, I think we need to address these issues. We need to shake hand. There has to be a handshake between the R&D and between the tactical requirement of the defense service. This is the first point which I would like to say here. And there is a very wide prospect for industry to develop, because we are into every sector. We are into aviation, and we are into all kind of weapon sectors, and you name anything and that is available in the defense sector. We are into communication, and we are into transportation, everything we are self-dependent. So every industry has a lot of scope in the defense industry, defense sector. Now, there has to be interface between the educational institute, between the industry, and between the defense forces. Because why I said we have a level which is so-called strategic level and the tactical level, which people have to understand. Which people have to understand as to what is the concept and how it is to be implemented on the ground. So I will call upon all the industrialists who are here. You must venture into this. You must venture into this. We will take on this call as far as the defense is concerned. And let me tell you here the practical aspect. Defense has always seen public sector units as our co-partners. There is no dearth of money as far as the public sector is concerned. Crores of money goes into planning something, and finally the plan doesn't work out, nobody asks a question. So today, if I have to look at you as a partner, and I have the same concept in my mind, unless you have that industry which deep pockets, no industry would like to venture into this. I know that there is no money available in the industry. You have no guarantee that after 2 years your product will succeed. That you will get a demand, you will get a supply order for some kind of instrument which you are planning to develop. So first and foremost, that we have to become flexible. Both the sides have to become flexible, and maybe over a period of time we have to plan some phases. Maybe for the first phase is that we need to have environment scan. The second phase is to understand what is the requirement of defense industry, and the third phase is to plan as to how you implement this, how you meet the requirement of the defense industry. When we talk of all these things, there has to be a lot of flexibility on the part of defense people as well as on the part of the industry, which is looking at defense sector as a growing business. So I feel that because being a defense officer, I feel I have very rigid ideas in my mind. I feel that you are just a vendor. I need to treat you as a partner. That is the most important aspect. The industry is not a vendor, industry is a partner. Then only the industry is going to grow in India. It's not only as the commanding officer of one big unit in this station I am talking. I feel that this mindset needs to be changed at every level, starting from the highest level to the lowest level. Last but not the least, I feel safety, reliability, effectiveness. These are three main aspects defense industry is looking at. So we have to focus our attention on this. We need to, whether it is R&D, whether it is any engineering degree, or whether it is skill, or those skill level which we are talking of, they have to be focused in this direction. That every product which goes coming out of this attempt of making India has to meet these three bills: safety, reliability, and effectiveness. Only then this defense industry will be able to take on the kind of this Make in India aspect. That is one aspect. And we need to leverage the core competence of the defense industry itself. Being in Air Force now for 30 years, I have seen how rigid we have become. Our track records are very good. We have a core competence which will match the best of the industry. Let me tell you, we have the infrastructure which will match the best of the industry. How about utilizing this competence? How about utilizing our facilities? The industry need to look at these things and then venture into this. And we also need to be little more flexible in letting you allow utilize our resources, and at the same time also utilize our core competence, which is already built up over a period of time. Finally, I will say that there is a need, to take the accountability of things. There is a need to take the charge. Somebody has to take the charge. Whether it can be a private industry, whether it can be a defense sector, somebody has to take the ownership of Make in India. Only then this dream will be fulfilled. And I wish there are more forums like this so that we interact better and everybody understands as to what we are in for. Thank you.
Thanks a lot, sir. We have very stupendous perspectives from defense so far. I would like to invite a guest panelist. The space was a bit short and we wanted to incorporate more opinions. I would like to invite Mr. Jatinder Vij, who is the Joint General Manager HR with the HMT Limited. So a public sector's perspective into Make in India and how the higher education institutions can be leveraged and integrated into it. I would request Mr. Vij to throw light. Sir. So you can.
Ladies and gentlemen, the first session itself I had given my very strong views, and listening to the gentlemen out here, I have a couple of points to make. When we talk about research and development, the institutes can play a very major role, and the interaction between the industry and the institute can take up a higher gear. How many patents are actually done by the engineering colleges or the universities? I wonder not much. That is where the real money will come forward. And the institutes themselves will become self-sustaining. If they go into real R&D work, sell that R&D work to the industry would lap it up. Because we in industry, we are so much busy with our daily kind of a thing, and except putting a little bit of R&D efforts, the real efforts are not going in the industry towards R&D thing. The institutes must get into the R&D gear and get certain patents done. Once those patents are done, then there would be an effective interaction between the industry and the institute. Number two, when we talk about the practical exposure of the students to the industry, our experiences, as I have already said in the first session, it is only on the paper. Real effective interaction doesn't take place, real practical exposure is not done. That exposure would be done if the institutes start picking up certain components from the industry and doing it. And for that, they need to build up their physical infrastructure. There was a talk about infrastructure, that 20% of the infrastructure is actually being used, and that 20%, I do not know what kind of infrastructure is there. Most of the institutes do not have the proper laboratories, they do not have the proper machinery, they do not have the proper equipments. Thirdly, the faculty needs to improve. There could be a healthy interaction, that way the faculty comes to the industry, take a bit of training from us, and in exchange we send our people to the institutes to get trained. It could be a healthy kind of a thing. One of the points that was raised, the beautiful point, that was partnership. It has to be a win-win situation between the industry and the institute. As far as the Make in India program is concerned, the gentleman from the forces has said strategy and tactics. The tactics is to get those foreign investors into India, make in India, but the ultimate aim should be to made in India, not make in India. Ultimate aim should be made in India, and made in India would happen only when there is a healthy interaction between industry and institute, and everybody thinks in a unison with the objective to take India to a higher gear, to make India from a developing country to a developed country. Those were my 2 cents. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen.
Thanks a lot, sir. I would now bring in Mr.
Good evening to you all, and thanks to Engineering Watch for giving me this opportunity to be with you for giving R&D perspective. a lot has been said by the panelists and the members present over here regarding the industry and the academia perspective. From my point of view, there are three main pillars of a society which can take a country to the top. The first is academia, second is industry, and third most important is R&D sector. And mostly in our country, R&D is being funded by the government. And what we generally find, there is a major disconnect between these three elements. If you consider academia is not talking to R&D institutions are not talking to industry, like that. So there is a big gap which needs to be bridged. Make in India, as one of the panelists said, it is very, very possible without the connect between these three. And this is not a new experiment. Earlier also many occasions made in India was done. Like if you all recall, there used to be a TV set, black and white TV set, and many of the government agencies and undertakings were manufacturing. Like Uptron, like Caltron, you might have heard of it. But what happened? That was only made in India. And it was only a screwdriver technology. And we did not take off from there to mature further technologies, do research and innovations. So there is a big gap that needs to be bridged by the academia, industry and the R&D institutions, so as to take off from a point from where we bring in the foreign technology and create our own technology so that we can sustain it continuously. And we can go further to make in India, as he said. Now, another big problem, which is a big issue, which is that everyone wants to live in its own comfort zone. Everybody, whether he is from services, whether he is from R&D institution, or whether from academics. There is a big divide again between the public universities and the private universities. Private universities are running for opportunities, whereas state universities, they are staying in their comfort zone and they don't want to make use of the opportunities they are coming across to. So this divide and this gap also needs to be bridged. Public sector universities and private universities, they have to be seen from the same point of view while allocating R&D funds. Today, as a defense scientist, I can say that I have been running after state universities to take up projects, but they are not willing to take up, or they don't come forward. And private universities who are willing to come forward, we are unable to give them because the rules are such that it's not permitted so easily. So this divide needs to be changed as per as the policy is concerned. Then another point which is there, we don't have to give higher education to everyone. It's not necessary. We have to create 3 or 4 tiers of education level and skilled people in that sense. See, there has to be a worker, there has to be a designer, engineer who produces in the plant or does a routine job, so he has to be conversant with those technologies. But there has to be someone who is innovator. And innovator is someone who is having a higher education in the real sense, that he is a researcher, he is innovator, and at the same time he is bringing in the solutions for the existing problems of the society and the industry. As on today, what is happening? Industry doesn't go, and by industry we mean the big houses, industrial houses. But there is nobody to solve the problems of the small scale industries. Sometimes they come with a good idea. They approach R&D institutions as well as the academy. But there is no taker because he is not able to fund the research in university or with the R&D sector. So somebody has to be there as a government mechanism so that he is also benefited. He can take advantage of the knowledge of the universities. one more thing which is there and very pertinent about the Indian academia. We are very good in publishing research papers. But these research papers are not getting converted into technology. Because it is finally the technology which is going to benefit the society, not the research paper. Research paper will be a good thing to be published in a high impact journal, and that knowledge will be utilized by some other people in some other country in creating technology. We just look westward to get those technologies which have been created on our research. That's what somebody has said here, one panelist among us, that we are very poor in patents. Patents are the things which create wealth. If there are good patents, there will be many takers and many products, and you will be getting royalty as an institution, and you will be self-sustaining. But these things are not happening in India. Make in India is a far-off dream. Made in India, yes, government is having a very strong will and they will do it. So that is not an issue, but we have to go for Make in India, and these three pillars, taking care of the society needs also, have to contribute toward engineering education, which is in different tiers, so that we can sustain on what has been started by this government. So with these words, I'll close. Thank you.
Thanks a lot, sir. I will request Professor P.K. Khosla to give up his opening remarks on the topic.
So being the last speaker in this second panelist, I have the advantage and disadvantage also. There are many points which I wanted to say those have been covered. But the advantage is I can speak on the points expressed by my colleagues. Firstly, I very strongly believe many of us have not included, for example, from the Air Force, my friend, he didn't talk about the academia. He said there should be a strong tie between the industry and the defense services. I would say as long as academia doesn't come in the picture, the technologies cannot be refined. The chance has to be given to the universities. And that is why we are here to discuss campus preparedness for Make in India. And then the issue of private, public universities have also come up. Availability of the funds is also there, whether the funds are there or not. Here I would like to cite the case of my own university. It's not for ego purposes I am going to say. It was said that if you start something at the age of 22, you are better prepared. But I started at the age of 64. After having served as the Vice Chancellor of Agriculture University and also advisor to the state government. My Chief Minister wanted me to continue as advisor for some time more. I said, no sir, I will start private education. Today I find, yes, there is a shortage of fund. I have the freedom to do. I can change anything. I can encash any opportunity which comes to me. I was also going for MOUs to begin with, for a glory. But today I go for such MOUs which are functional. We have now successful MOUs with the industry, with the foreign countries. 30 of my students are now outside the country going for semester exchange. I recall 4 years back, I'm from Himachal, there are 16 private universities. When Chitkara University, Himachal presented, 4 of its students are studying abroad. When that day will come, when the student from Shuling University will also go. But I am a man, because I am now 75, I have a commitment, only commitment is to take Shuling University on the top. And the very first day when we established the university, by 2022, we will be among the 200 global university. At that time, I didn't realize it is a very difficult and Herculean task. But last year, when Dr. Kalam had come to my university as a convocation, he said, Dr. Khosla, why you say 200? Why not say 100? It is difficult, but not impossible. So the ranking is going to be accepted by the Indian universities. I tell you, that is the yardstick which I am following, because I know what type of faculty is required. I know there are 150 teachers in my university, half of them are PhDs. And my aim is in next 3 years, 100% they should be converted into PhD, or I ask them to leave. Then out of those 50%, another 50% are postdocs from abroad. For the first time when the couple came to me that they want to be in my faculty from the US, Indians, they were husband and wife, their condition was, yeah, we will get the project, but you give us a lab with 5 lakh rupees and this was the salary. I discussed with my management, they were not willing, but I said if we have to make ahead some dent in education and research, this is the opportunity we must catch, we must avail. Because these are the two teachers who will be available, the mid-career people who are settled in US or anywhere, now they want to come back. So we did try that and it proved to be successful. Today I have projects for 20 crore rupees. And when I presented before the state government that in 10 years time I will have 100 crores, the secretaries laughed at me. Dr. Bola, tum to ivory towers bana rahe ho. So I knew it is not Dr. Khosla has to do it, it is the faculty. So faculty is the first pillar. When you are preparing for the campus, see that when you get the top faculty, whether it is the government or private, doesn't matter. Private universities will always have that advantage. Our Dr. Chawla has talked about that the fund should be given to the state, private universities also. How can you close your eyes when the country is thinking of 1,000 private universities in the next 5 years? Such a big human resource. We work on bulk model that we need to have more students, otherwise we cannot run a course. A government with 10 students of course run kar loge. You need to have 60 students. So many students, so many teachers, and then can you continue discriminating it? But I can tell you, in the science domain, in the DST, DBT, or the CSIR, or other body, this has been cracked. I have spent, my projects used to be thrown in the waste paper basket. I talked to the secretaries, I fought with the secretaries. You cannot, I am the same P.K. Khosla. जिसके पीछे आप प्रोजेक्ट देने के लिए भाग रहे थे, अब मैं एक यूनिवर्सिटी आप खोल के बैठा हूँ. I am also the vice chancellor. Things have now coming up. Private universities are now looked with respect. The government knows it, but I support his contention that something should become the R&D. I was talking to the Secretary DBT. 6 universities in biotechnology में, ours is a biotechnology priority area. All the 6 were public universities. मैंने कहा जी हम कहाँ गए? मैंने कहा आपको second phase में लेंगे. मैं कहा this is you are losing the human resource, the challenge and the opportunity. हम तो सब कुछ करने के लिए तैयार हैं. We wanted to develop relations with DRDO. We did everything, but DRDO is also very passive organization. And I can tell you, हमने तो कहा था हम सारी यूनिवर्सिटी अपनी के साइंस लगा देते हैं DRDO की डेवलपमेंट के लिए, but they did not take it. But we are the people who would not like to lose art. अभी engineering watch they have given us the DRDC cell for development. We were looking for the change will come. Change is required. So if you look at I am a person who supports the global ranking. Research, somebody said 40%. I would say research is 70%. When you go to the curriculum development, PG research, that also comes is also research. Total मिलाकर अगर कोई यूनिवर्सिटी अच्छे पेपर छाप रही है, फिर वो तो ऊपर जाएगी. The condition of the Times method of ranking is 200 research papers been published in the Scopus or Thomson Reuters index journals. आज मेरे पास 100 हैं, वो भी इतना जोर लगाने के बाद. And though that is required for 5 years, only then you are eligible to compete. तो आप कैसे हमारी पब्लिक यूनिवर्सिटियां करेंगी? उनको तो हमेशा they divide the number of the teachers, the number of the papers published. Dr. Bajpai was here, so there he himself said there is nothing in the arts and commerce or other subjects. They are not doing research. So it is very difficult for the Indian institutions to compete there. मैं तो ये सोचता हूँ आज, many times I think if I had not chosen engineering as an engineering college as a part of my agenda, I would have gone much ahead in science. But in science there is no money, students do not know. I had to start engineering for revenue purposes. Our revenue has to come. And then I have started thinking, it is the industry. We must have the patents, go for the industrial tie-ups. Each university must have its own industry. Only then the money will come. We, particularly in the Himalayan region, we have so much biodiversity. Anything which new comes to us, it can take to any level. So industrial development, and that can give our students to have it try the things that otherwise you learn, and also give them the experience. These are some of the things very important. But the third thing is infrastructure. Infrastructure here does not mean that marbles and other things. Infrastructure will mean nicely established research lab. Some Dr. Sharma, one of the panel said some of the labs, universities do not have the lab. You come to visit Shule University, we have 17 research labs which are financed and funded by the research projects of the Government of India. So money is also there, difficulties are also there. So private university must be patronized, and they are easy to take the opportunity and develop relations with between the industry. That is a better conduit than the government. अगर कल को this ranking why we Indian universities are not going for ranking? Why they are opposing it? The Prime Minister says we will have our own ranking because he is also influenced by the IITs. That is, 235 position has come for the Indian Science, the Indian Institute of Science, and 375 is for the Punjab University. Congratulations, some university has come up in that list. But last year they were much ahead. They were at 250 or somewhere in that level. So they have also still slided down. So all these things are important. We have to maintain quality in the university system and go for campus preparedness. We have to keep in mind government of India must support those universities who wants to prepare. हमारे तो colleagues को पता ही नहीं. अब मैं किसी भी वाइस चांसलर से पूछता हूँ यार रैंकिंग क्या होती है, कहते हमने क्या लेने देना, हमने तो अपनी जब सरकारी वाइस चांसलर कहता है मैंने तो अपनी टर्म पूरी करनी है यार, स्टूडेंट की स्ट्राइक नाउ. This vice chancellor Bajpai, he was telling, he has introduced RUSA, that same system of flexible electives, and there is agitation by the political parties every day at Shimla University campus. There is stone throwing and the agitation. So we have to face all these things. Or I said in the morning in the first panel when I said 150 years ago, that chemistry professor wrote an article in one of the journals. If US education is to improve, it should be the flexible system. We have to give something new to our system. Otherwise, everything is available in the net. But we have to teach them. We have to teach them new things. So even meditation, ethics, yoga, all these things are the talk of the Western universities are doing it. While yoga or meditation is our heritage, and we should. हमें लोग कहते हैं कि ये तो fundamentalist है. I have a meditation center in the university. लोग कहते हैं क्या खोल लिया तुमने? हमारे सामने कहते हैं, after 10 years you will realize what Dr. Khosla has said. So, colleagues, good partnership, good appreciation of the private resource. बहुत बड़ा resource है. आपके government से faculty भी ज़्यादा है यहाँ पर. और आगे को there are no jobs in the government sector. There are jobs only in the private sector. So, if the jobs are there, how can you ignore this such a human resource? It is the advice for the government of India also for campus preparedness. Faculty will always be there. And then, if the government comes to support, then why should we be greedy? हमें तो किसी पैसे की जरूरत नहीं है. But I tell you, if we have to pay the type of the UGC scale that government institutions are doing, we cannot have even a single penny for contingency. हमने तो शुरू में मॉडल बनाया है, 6 आदमी टॉप के रखो, 6 आदमी निचले रखो, तो 20,000 बने. अदरवाइज अगर यूजीसी स्केल देना हो, आप 2 साल में कम बैंकक्रप्ट हो जाएंगे. वो अपनी कंडीशनर कमरे में बैठकर आगरी टैबलेट में पीसीआर अदर थिंग दे पुट इन द कंडीशन, इतनी टीचर टॉट रेशो आज से 30 साल पहले बनी थी. उतना टीचिंग लोड ही नहीं है. बट द कंडीशन दे गिव अस द टीचर टॉट रेशो. माय colleagues of the private university will agree with it. ये ऊपर नीचे करके थोड़ी बहुत इधर उधर करके we are showing to the regulatory bodies. So they are only concerned. So our regulatory body should also be for quality. Thank you very much.
Thanks a lot, sir. This passion and passion to the entire forum to put up their remarks. Yeah.
He is willing to go for it. Willing to go for it in the field of his interest, that is just making of pizzas after teaching. Why this culture is not there in our country? Even in our country, if a student is graduating from engineering side, from management side, from science side, he is not willing to work at the salary of 50,000 per month over here. Why he is so scared? He may think like that, but society will say. So what we need to do, you see, so that these sort of things should not be there. So inside the same guy, the same student, if he goes abroad, he is ready to work in the fuel station, delivery boy, and other things. But he is not ready to work in the same country, inner country, where he is getting the education over here. So what stops him to do these sort of things over?
Peer pressure. That is the thing. Frankly speaking, today, I'll give you an example of my university. Can I have the mic, please? One parent, he came and he wanted to, put his son in our university. And he came, he had good marks. When the parents went out, the guy came to me, the son of the student came to me, and he said, "Sir, I don't want to be an engineer." I said, "Beta, why?" He said, "I want to be an actor." I said, "Okay, beta, wait outside, I'll call your parents." I called those parents inside. I said, what the hell you are doing? Why you are not making him do what he wants to do it? That is what I was trying to tell you all. You should have that willingness to do. If you are not interested in doing something, don't force things on your child. I'm telling you, I was shit scared of mathematics. I'm not an engineer. 10th standard, UP board, I got 86% marks. My father said, you be an engineer, because he was an engineer. Roorkee University product. I said, nothing doing. I will not. I'll take bio, I'll take arts, I will not do this engineering. This has to come from the student. The parents, you as a guide, all the teachers as a guide, has to tell these students, tell these parents, please listen to your word. Unless and until they are willing to do something, they cannot excel in life.
So what improvement we need to have in the society also?
Education.
You know,
you have to educate these people.
To add to this, this is basically a problem of education. What you used to say a long time back, literacy or whatever, we have focused inside our heart only on literacy, but not opening up our mind. Education is opening up of our mind. Our education system is not focusing on that. It is not providing that kind of, system where people can think independently. They can think that, okay, everything is fine if we have to do some job or whatever, or even if we don't have to go for any service, we can do something else. We are not opening up. And that's the reason that we, even after so many decades, we are into same rut of caste, creed, religion, all those kind of things. Anybody talks of religion or all these things in US, those who are in working? No one. That's not a priority. But our education system, that has been focusing on all those areas, and we have not focused ourselves towards the direction in which we should go. And obviously, peer pressure. I can give example of my own daughter. It was her peer pressure, although we never forced on her that she should not. She would have been excellent person in literature. She writes so well even now. She used to write poetry. She used to do so many good things in that, but she is working as an engineer in Ford Motors. What kind of innovation can she do? I know she is not going to do excellent thing, in her life. If she would have gone in for that, probably she would have done something great. These are few things which ordinarily our society is not permitting. We have to provide that kind of environment. That's why, we say, let us try to make education socially relevant. Let us try to make it more potent as far as opening up our minds are concerned. That's where the problem is.
I think it basically requires a change in the cultural mindset or the societal mindset. The other day I was talking about, the skill development. A beautician who ties a bridal sari, she charges about 20,000 rupees for tying a sari. And the lady there is tying a better sari than her. But she has a skill. But then our families or our society would not really appreciate that our daughters or sisters go and tie the sari in a shop. Or even the mehndi thing. A bridal mehndi is a skill. She will charge about 10-15,000 rupees. But society mein wo image nahi rahega. I think that mindset, now you see an engineer or professor going and making a pizza, we as Indians, we will not appreciate that. We must appreciate that. But a time is coming. Now things are changing. 5 years from now, you will find, loss of dignity of labor. Look at the plumber. Plumber who comes around to your house will charge you about $1,000 to, fix up a small thing. The time will come and you will say to a plumber, sorry, I'll do the plumbing job myself. I think the onus lies with us only. The other thing is, in America, there's a culture of divorce. Now, I don't mean the culture of divorce means a husband divorcing a wife or a wife divorcing a culture, the husband. There's a culture of divorce in terms of jobs. An ordinary American changes about 10 to 15 times his job or his profession. Whereas, हम जो job शुरू करते हैं, we retire from that only, from the same profession. Most of us. Though Mr. Khosla, he said he started at 64 years, really appreciable, because there is no age for learning and experimenting. We, as a country, we're not very adventurous. We don't take the risk.
And for that, I think if I just see the World Competitiveness Report, 2014-15, we have ranked 71st. In factor conditions we are good, but we are not good in innovation. Here comes the role of the education. I just tell you, what is happening is the culture. Somebody talked about the culture. Culture is that we are only teaching our students that you have to score marks in that case. We are not trying to give them the skills which are really looking for, the emotional skills or the life skills. We are not teaching them. Only they are running after what? Only they are running after the marks. They are not being challenged. My worry is that my youngsters in the private universities, they are not being challenged. The teachers are told that you have to give the PPTs to the student for day one, everything. All the things, when I was studying, Mr. Charlo was also there, our teacher used to say, okay, 70% course they used to complete, and they used to say, what is not covered in the class will be covered in the examination. And we used to go into the libraries, we were challenged every day. The biggest challenge with the youngster is they have the potential, they have more potential than what we are having, but the main thing is the culture is not there. We are not challenging the youngsters, that they have to be challenged, that every day you have to what? That is where I think that first thing. The second thing is the competency. I think that the skill development we have to match to the industry. If we are asking the foreign investment to come here, they are also looking for human resources. They are also looking for quality people. If you are not producing quality people, foreign investment is not going to come. The factor conditions, which is very, very important, is here comes the role of the academicians. And the third thing is, we have been talking about we are not matching with industry, we are not trying to give the skill development. I think why not the university should have the relationship managers with the industry. That we are trying to what? They should be what? They should be people who should try to build what? Relationship with industry, so that they can be in constant touch with the industry. That's very, very important. So I think today in this environment what we are living, the role of the education institutions are very, very important. We are talking about the Made in India, but we have to what? We have to think about the education, the skill development. In our Punjab University, I think Dr. Amandeep Singh is there. We have started the skill development, the soft skill for the entire university. It's not only for the professional courses, even for the sciences, even for the arts. Dr. Amandeep Singh, we have started that they are also being given what? They are also being given the soft skills, because that's also important not only for the professional courses, even for the engineering, even for the arts, even for the sciences we are trying to. So that's my concern about that. The culture is very important, the competency and the human resource. That's very, very important. Thank you very much.
मेक इन इंडिया में मेरा बहुत ही जनरल क्वेश्चन है. यहीं पर सभी एस्टीम्ड गेस्ट एकेडमिशियन यहाँ पर बैठे हैं. सबसे पहले मैं मेरी यूनिवर्सिटी डॉक्टर R.S. शर्मा, गुरु जाम्बेश्वर यूनिवर्सिटी ऑफ साइंस एंड टेक्नोलॉजी हिसार हरियाणा, 3 बार A ग्रेडेड यूनिवर्सिटी है NAAC के द्वारा. लेकिन जैसे वाइस चांसलर के नाते मैं महसूस करता हूँ, बिल्कुल प्रैक्टिकल बात आप सब वाइस चांसलर से मैं शेयरिंग कर रहा हूँ. आज स्टूडेंट्स के अंदर एनर्जी की कोई कमी नहीं है, शक्ति की कमी नहीं है, इंटेलिजेंसी की कमी नहीं है. कहीं कमी है तो मोटिवेशन की है. मोटिवेशन टीचर करता है, मोटिवेशन समाज के शिक्षाविद व्यक्ति करते हैं, मोटिवेशन पेरेंट्स करता है. कहीं न कहीं ये मोटिवेशन की कमी बीच में गैप आया है. लेकिन हम क्वालिटी एजुकेशन की बात करते हैं. हायर एजुकेशन में क्वालिटी एजुकेशन कैसे हो, बहुत से बड़े बड़े सेमिनार और वर्कशॉप लगाए जाते हैं. लेकिन जो मैं समझता हूँ क्वालिटी एजुकेशन प्राइमरी एजुकेशन से शुरू हो. जिस एजुकेशन को हमने बिल्कुल दूर कर दिया, प्राइमरी, मिडल और हायर सेकेंडरी एजुकेशन जो क्वालिटी एजुकेशन का बेस है, वहां जो बेस बनता और बेसिक्स जो क्लियर होते हैं वो आकर के हायर एजुकेशन में क्वालिटी एजुकेशन आती है. क्वालिटी एजुकेशन के साथ प्रैक्टिकल नॉलेज और प्लस जॉब अपॉर्चुनिटीज को जोड़ना आज के लिए बहुत जरूरी है. लेकिन आज युवाओं में जो कमी देखी गई है, जिससे कि पेरेंट्स के अंदर भी बहुत ही डर और भय बैठा हुआ है, प्रेशर है, सीवियर स्ट्रेस है, सेल्फ कॉन्फिडेंस की कमी है. आज उस सेल्फ कॉन्फिडेंस को दूर करने के लिए या उसके अंदर पैदा करने, सेल्फ कॉन्फिडेंस की कमी को दूर करने के लिए और उसके अंदर सेल्फ कॉन्फिडेंस, आत्मविश्वास पैदा हो, आज हमने सब लर्नड व्यक्तियों को इस पर विचार करना चाहिए, क्योंकि आज की एजुकेशन को, कॉम्पिटिटिव जो एजुकेशन है वो स्ट्रेस और प्रेशर की एजुकेशन है। पेरेंट्स भी सोचता है कि मेरा बेटा आईआईटी में जाए, एम्स में जाए, कोई छोटी इंस्टीट्यूशन में ना जाए। तो आज इस चीज को हमने चैनलाइज करना है कि हम स्ट्रेस को कैसे दूर कर पाए। स्ट्रेस को दूर करने के लिए स्टूडेंट्स में वैल्यू बेस्ड एजुकेशन को हमने इंजीनियरिंग और आर्ट्स और मेडिकल साइंस को जोड़ना पड़ेगा। जब तक वैल्यू बेस्ड एजुकेशन के साथ आप आईआईटी खड़गपुर, कानपुर, जितनी भी आईआईटीज हैं, उनकी एजुकेशन को वैल्यू बेस्ड एजुकेशन के साथ जोड़ा हुआ है। हमने अभी पिछले दिनों गुरु जाम्बेश्वर यूनिवर्सिटी हिसार में वैल्यू बेस्ड एजुकेशन के माध्यम से इंजीनियरिंग स्टूडेंट्स, मैनेजमेंट के स्टूडेंट्स और आर्ट्स के विद्यार्थियों को जब हमने उनको मोटिवेट किया तो वास्तव में एक परिवर्तन सामने आया। तो मैं चाहता हूं कि हमारी इस क्वालिटी एजुकेशन को वैल्यू बेस्ड एजुकेशन के साथ जोड़ा जाना चाहिए। जैसे गुरु जाम्बेश्वर के नाम से मेरा विश्वविद्यालय है, वहां पर एक रिलीजियस सेंटर है, और मैं चाहता हूं कि हमारी जितनी भी प्राइवेट स्टेट यूनिवर्सिटी है, कोई डिफरेंस नहीं है। रजिस्ट्रार साहब ने बहुत अच्छा कहा कि अगर स्टेट गवर्नमेंट प्राइवेट यूनिवर्सिटी का भी कहीं न कहीं किसी न किसी रूप में सहयोग करता है तो वास्तव में उसके अंदर एक रूपता आती है। लेकिन रिलीजियस सेंटर वैल्यू बेस्ड एजुकेशन के लिए सभी यूनिवर्सिटी में बहुत बढ़िया कार्य करते हैं। हमारे वहां पर गुरु जाम्बेश्वर महाराज के नाम से एक चेयर है, उसके अंदर फिलॉसफी ऑफ गीता और उसकी फिलॉसफी को लेकर, ये नहीं कि हम संस्कृत के श्लोक वहां पर पढ़ा करके व्यक्तियों को ऐसा कर रही हैं, लेकिन वहां पर वैल्यू बेस्ड फिलॉसफी गीता की कैसे डेवलप करें जिससे कि बच्चे के अंदर आत्मविश्वास पैदा हो। वास्तव में एक परिवर्तन आया है और बच्चों ने अपनी एजुकेशन, इंजीनियरिंग और मैनेजमेंट एजुकेशन को जब गीता की फिलॉसफी के साथ जोड़ करके देखा तो वास्तव में एक सेल्फ कॉन्फिडेंस पैदा हुआ है। और मेरा ये सबसे निवेदन है कि आज का स्टूडेंट्स अपेक्षा करता है जॉब की। जब तक हम अपनी विश्वविद्यालय को या इंजीनियरिंग मेडिकल कॉलेज को जॉब अपॉर्चुनिटी के साथ नहीं जोड़ेंगे तो बच्चों के अंदर लैक ऑफ कॉन्फिडेंस रहता है। तो ये तभी संभव होगा जब हम सब लर्नड व्यक्ति नॉन अटेंडिंग प्रथा को कम करेंगे। नॉन अटेंडिंग में एजुकेशन कॉलेज है, बीएड कॉलेजेस में तो मेनली हरियाणा के कॉलेजेस मेरे साथ भी एफिलिएटेड हैं, दूसरी यूनिवर्सिटी के साथ हैं। तो जहां पर टीचर ही नॉन अटेंडिंग है तो क्वालिटी एजुकेशन पर तो प्रश्न लगता है। तो इंजीनियरिंग कॉलेज हो, प्राइवेट यूनिवर्सिटी हो, स्टेट यूनिवर्सिटी हो, 100% रेगुलर क्लासेज होनी चाहिए। रेगुलर क्लासेज का मतलब ये है उसके बेसिक्स स्टूडेंट्स के सभी क्लियर होंगे। जब बेसिक्स क्लियर होंगे तो रिसर्च ओरिएंटेड होगा। जब रिसर्च मेथोडोलॉजी को नहीं समझेगा तो अच्छा रिसर्चर और साइंटिस्ट भी नहीं बन सकता। और मैं ये भी चाहता हूं कि इसमें कोई अदरवाइज नहीं लेना, इंजीनियरिंग साइड बहुत बढ़िया है लेकिन हमने बेसिक साइंस को भी लेकर के चलना है। अगर इस राष्ट्र को आज आवश्यकता है तो अच्छे साइंटिस्ट की है। मेक इन इंडिया की बात, इंडस्ट्री के साथ हमारी एजुकेशन कैसे जुड़ सकती है, सरकारी इंडस्ट्री, प्राइवेट इंडस्ट्री, तो इस पर भी अलग से इस प्रकार के सेमिनार, वर्कशॉप आयोजित किए जाने चाहिए जिससे कि वास्तव में मेक इन इंडिया का स्वप्न हम बातों में नहीं, चर्चा में नहीं, साकार रूप से इसको हम रूप दे सके। तो ये ऑर्गेनाइजर को मैं विशेषतः बधाई देता हूं कि आपने पहल की है और बहुत बढ़िया। पहले भी पैनल का बहुत अच्छा इंटरेक्शन हुआ, दूसरे पैनल में सभी वर्दी वाइस चांसलर और जो इंडस्ट्री से लोग जुड़े हुए हैं आपस में इंटरेक्शन हुआ और काफी समय लोगों को दिया गया। मैं चाहता हूं आज हमें पूरे राष्ट्र को नई दिशा, नई गति और नई प्रेरणा देने की हमने कामना करनी चाहिए। धन्यवाद। जय हिंद।
Before I invite our guest of honor for this evening to give his closing remarks on this session as to how these things can be seen from an international perspective.
I think, there are some extremely valid points that has come up during this conversation. I think one of the most valuable things that I think we should all collectively pursue is creating IP and patents for every university maybe there is a follow-up where we can actually come out and educate in institutions and and bring out those people who actually are patent experts to go in and actually educate people on what can be filed as a patent. I think there is a general knowledge awareness that has to be built in terms of what you can actually file as a patent. A lot of things is most people don't understand you can actually patent a concept. You can even patent an idea. You don't have to always have a product that you are patenting. So I think some of those ideas itself can be actually great way. But in my view, I think hearing everything that we are hearing here, I think there is obviously a greater coordination between the industry and academia that would be of great benefit, and along with the suppliers, the manufacturers, the industry, the academia, I think coming all of them together is going to be extremely critical for the success of this country and making India as a vision. We as from a campus management standpoint, we very closely work with organizations and institutions to help you, enable you to build that kind of a bridge, and I will be happy to engage with any one of you here to be enabling you in capacities that we can. But I think from a larger vision standpoint, we would love to continue to have these kind of forums, and hopefully after the 4 sessions that we're going to do pan-India, we will come up and present theory notes, and hopefully Engineering Works will actually, Watch will actually put together that, present that notes, which can then have a follow-up session and take that forward and bring that vision which the government of India has to reality from all of us collectively put our hands together. So I thank all the panelists and thank everybody here for the active participation. This session can go on for another 2 hours. I can see the enthusiasm that you all have, and it almost feels difficult for us to close this session, but I'll hand it back.
I just want to an enabler, because eventually it is all adding up into managing the information workflows. So that's where the next panelist would be delivering more on that.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, I would now request Raj to thank all our panelists by presenting them a stole for making such wonderful contributions on this panel. I will request him to felicitate Rear Admiral V. Rajashekharan for his excellent comments on hands-on practical stuff. I would also request him to thank Captain Ajay Swaroop from DIT University. I would request him to felicitate Mr. Jatinder Vij. I would like him to thank Air Commodore PM Puranik. Dr. Pravendra Kumar from TBRI Chandigarh. And last but not the least, the most passionate amongst all of us in the audience and speakers today, the septuagenarian Professor P.K. Khosla. I thank you all the panelists.